There's an old nursery rhyme that goes something like this. An old lady swallowed a fly, but to catch the fly, she swallowed a spider. To catch the spider, she swallowed a bird, and it goes on like that. Ultimately, the nursery rhyme ends with it leading to death. That she does so many things to try and capture that fly that she's nowhere near where she wanted to be at the start of that. What if we in youth ministry are similar? Is it so very long ago, back in the 1800s, when the Industrial Revolution allowed parents and families to be more separated and segregated than ever? What if at the point that parents stopped investing in kids in the way that they did as a whole, that youth ministry was then birthed as a response to that? What if we, as youth ministry, have just tried to cover over that problem for decades and decades and decades? With the Industrial Revolution happening is that parents were now able to work outside of the home. After that, organizations like YMCA, Young Life, Youth for Christ came alongside the families and churches to teach them not only how to read, but also to read the Bible in hopes that they would fall more in love with Jesus. In response to that, churches looked and saw that students were walking away from church because they were engaging their faith in different ways. And so, years later, the church started to employ people like you and I, youth pastors, youth ministers, who would engage students, engage them back in the church, and have them fall in love with Jesus. But I'm not sure if they fell more in love with the church or their family. And so here we sit in modern day, where studies indicate that students are walking away from their faith at alarming rates of 60 to 70% after they graduate from high school, and we don't know if or when they're going to come back. I'd like to think that after 130 years that we had gotten a little bit better at this. But unfortunately, I just asked the question of, are we covering over things and making more things, whereas what we needed to do was not swallow the fly at the start? That we then see that we as a church have an opportunity to play a supportive role in that, and then ultimately is that as we link arms as church, family, leaders, that we then wait for God's Spirit to move, that He directs us, that He leads us, that He teaches us and guides us and convicts us. And ultimately, if we do that, then it's happening with our students as well. That we're seeing a faith be transmitted from the families, from a Deuteronomy 6 position where family and faith is passed down. We're seeing it now be a living and real and active part of what's going on. And that isn't to discount what it is that God has done over the last 100 to 200 years. Make no mistake. But I would just ask the question of, what could we do to allow faith to be transmitted to the next generation to stick? For myself, I have rearranged my entire scheduling calendar. I allow parents more time with me. Not more access to my life, but that they pray for me, my family, and my ministry. They speak into my ministry and they tell other people about it. And so I spend my time more with parents than I do actually with leaders or kids. I also have to get farther ahead in my schedule, developing curriculum, developing material that we then hand to parents and hand to families, so that as mom and dad, as families send kids to church, they aren't asking what they learn, but they're telling them, hey, this is what you're going to be learning, and now we get the chance to engage in that. What would it look like if we flipped this whole thing on its ear and began to empower the families to take the rightful place that God designed and desired them to see faith passed down from generation to generation? It takes more time. You don't see results as quickly. But my hope and my prayer is for you and for I, is that we have the privilege of seeing faith that lasts. Faith that becomes real to these students. And faith that is then given from them to others.